Hello, everyone, and welcome to the living room. My name is Joe Young, and we are back doing a quick message follow up from last week's, which was all about true love, all about harmony, all about harmonious living with others. And that's the true joy, true purpose, true realization of our lives. I thought it would be good to do a follow up to that message because, I was really excited to talk about that. And I think it's kind of profound the more you think about it. It's not just giving is good for you, it's not just gives you endorphins, gives you joy, but the true, deepest satisfaction of our whole existence is in relationships, in relationship with each other, and in relationship with God. And so I thought this would be a good message to ground it a little bit. Let's talk about how we do that, because it's kind of easy to say, all you need is love. I think somebody said that before, huh? And there's so many great songs that come to mind. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing. I love that song, and that songwriter who wrote that, Burt Bacharach, just passed away. So it's on my mind. And so there's been plenty of music out there that uh, pulls our heart to get us to feel that truth of, yeah, we need love. That's what we're here for. That's why we're breathing. That's what we're doing here. But the trickier part is, how do we get there? How do we become a world that's got more love, sweet love, right? How? And so I thought we'd at least spend one or two messages on some of the key ingredients for making that actually happen. And so hang on to this next few messages with me. We're going to talk about some key ingredients, the pillar things that we could do or think about or ponder to actually start us in the direction of becoming a world of more love. But it is a beautiful place to start, that harmony is what we're made for. And it makes so much sense. You could be the most brilliant musician, brilliant violin player in the world, but if you're stuck on a desert island all by yourself, how much joy are you going to have, really? How much fulfillment, how much actual fullness of life will you feel stuck on a desert island all by yourself? And not to mention, who's going to make your violin? You might be the most brilliant player in the world, but who's going to make your violin? And then who's going to be your audience, right? And then who's going to be the composer of the music you're playing? And then who's going to make the amphitheater? Who's going to be the architect to make the beautiful amphitheater and the auditorium and the space in which people can come to enjoy your music? So we just take it for granted all the time. I do too. That every beautiful and wonderful thing in life is stemming from how, good harmonious relationships with others. Me and the violin maker, or in my case it'd be the guitar maker, and the audience and the auditorium and everything all coming together. We really overlook it. I am too. So this message has got to be about, let's ground it in some practical things, some key ingredients. How do we bring more love into the world? How do we become people of true love? That's the biggest question I think I could possibly tackle. But I know a few couple little ingredients. And this is hotly kind of not debated, but it is obscured all the time in the world. When people talk about how do we make us a perfect world, it gets the whole gamut of ideas are out there. And, the enemies of godly thinking always use some key things. They always say, it's other people that need to begin fixing themselves first for the world to become a better place. And there's so many subtle ways in which that message comes into our minds and is all around us, and that is false. That is false. We're going to talk about why. that somehow it's them, right? Them, the ruling class, or the oppressive group, or the neighboring country that we've always hated, whoever it is, they are the problem. If we could scourge and get rid of them, this would be a better world. And you know what? The world has been trying that for thousands and thousands of years. One tribe killing another tribe, one nation killing another nation, one people enslaving another people. We've tried that. And it's amazing how we keep falling for it over and over again, that oh well since they've been enslaving us for 1,000 years, all we really need to do is enslave them. Yeah, that will fix it. And although, you see, this feels good in a certain way for our, fallen nature to get that revenge, to get that justice, we got to be very careful. Satan's been tricking us for a long time on this. Another key way that this gets obscured, hey, we can make the perfect world. And Satan uses this one right here. We just need more materials. We need something materialistic. We need something of a material nature to fix all our problems. We need more money. And we do that individually, right? I'm doing it too, even sometimes subtly in my life. Geez, if I only had better paying gigs, my life would be so much better. I've literally thought that to myself. And we do it on a large scale. Only if there was enough money for Africa, if there was enough money for to solve hunger, if we could get rid of poverty, if we could put homes over every family, and if we could get food on every table, the world would be a better place. And it really pulls on our heartstrings, and we long for the day that we could see this kind of perfection in the world. But you got to study even when some politician or some preacher or something is telling you, hey, I've got a plan to make the world a great place. We're just going to fix poverty. We're just going to put a roof over everybody's head. You got to be very careful. This person's probably a trick, a lie, because it's not material things that's going to drive the change and transformation of this world into a loving world. All you need to do is remember in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, they had it perfect. It was perfect. It was handcrafted by God for just them. And it was good, as the Bible might say. That's an understatement. It wasn't just good, it was amazing. Everything was designed to work for them. The conditions were ideal, heavenly, and perfect. And yet, still, Adam and Eve fell. They made a big mistake. They believed Satan's lie. So the conditions can be absolutely perfect, and we still have the huge possibility of making big mistakes. We can have the huge possibility of hurting each other. See, the condition of this world, the bad condition of this world right now, is not a result of a money shortage or a materialistic problem. It is the direct reflection and result of the human heart having a heart change from a God-centered, godly-minded, godly-focused heart of faith and true love and selflessness, and that small shift over to a different heart, a different allegiance, a different orientation of self-centeredness. That is the key. Look, and even before Adam and Eve fell, there was another thing that happened. Lucifer. If you really kind of look into it, Lucifer was filled with a lot of emotional pain, actually. He was so incredibly jealous and envious and feeling completely left out when Adam and Eve arrived on the scene. And he filled his heart with violence and rage and revenge and wanted to take God out and usurp his power. But this was before he even decided to trick Adam and Eve. And, a quip was coming to my mind. Dude, you're like God's best buddy. You're God's best buddy, and also you're an angel of light. You're like genius. You helped create the world. You could probably fly, you know? How many great songs are there about, but if I could fly like a bird, you know? This dude could probably fly like a bird, literally, really. And still, so you can fly like a bird, you can be an angel of light, you can have the perfect Garden of Eden right there for you, and you can still have pain in your heart and make mistakes. This is a huge point to land on. So the key ingredients to becoming a loving person is not some kind of condition out there that needs to happen first. Brothers and sisters, it has to start within you, and it has to start right now. If it's not right now, then basically it's a type of thinking that's very conditional. Well, later I can be a more loving person. That's a condition to being more loving. And the kind of love we are meant to operate on, and the kind of love that God is showering upon us all the time, is unconditional. Which necessitates, follow the logic here, means it can happen right now. Unconditional. There's no condition. There's no time needed to wait to begin taking the steps towards being a true love person that is an unconditionally loving person. Isn't that amazing? So just imagine that Garden of Eden picture. Perfect conditions, yet mistakes happening. Then the opposite picture is right there for us all to see. In the example of Jesus. All the conditions, totally against him. Totally against him. Betrayed by his family, disbelieved by everybody, and yet he remained a man of perfected true love. So that's the example. We've got to talk about having faith. We've got to believe that that's possible. We've got to see that example. We've got to keep our eyes on Jesus and realize that that is possible. That is how humankind is meant to be. Keep our eyes on that. So we've got to be stepping out, climbing out of conditional love ideas into unconditional love. Sounds pretty beautiful, right? Let's talk about how we can do it. Some things that came to mind that were kind of practical, day to day almost, was, we step into unconditional love whenever we start thinking, you owe me. Somebody owes me something. If you think about it, that's like putting a little condition. Well, I'm not a happy person until you say you're sorry. I'm not a happy person until you start doing more chores around the house. I'm a restricted and, I'm restricting my love. I'm holding it back. I'm withdrawing unless you get your act together. We do this as husband and wives all the time, but also in other relationships. And so think about that. Anytime you have your internal dialogue saying, they owe me something. You owe me. That group owes my group. That people owes my people. Start thinking like that, and you're actually giving the power away to start becoming an unconditional love person right now. This you owe me attitude sneaks in whenever you hear your mindset going, they always, or she always, she never, he never does this. Why does he always? That was a really good tip one of my mentors told me was, catch yourself. If you start saying always and never in your mind, or even in verbal arguments or something, chances are underneath is a you owe me sentence in there, right? They never do this and this, therefore they kind of owe me that. And we've got to get to the unconditional love space, which is a parental love, which means, yeah, they never do that. Or they hardly ever help out with this or that, do the dishes, pick up their clothes, whatever it is. But they don't owe because they're immature. They know not what they do. They're immature. They've got growing up to do. And it's hugely disappointing, could even be painful. It could even be frustrating for me. But it's not stuck in that cycle of, well, they owe me and they never, and you get twisted up and bitter about these things. We have to undo that instinct, that fallen nature instinct to get bitter, to hold on to it, to make the accusations, you never, and I can list it out perfectly, that every time I bring it up, you never do it. Got to get out of that energy. That's the energy of eye for an eye. That's the energy of our fallen nature. The conditional love is always easily understood when you think about the heart of the parent. What if you were that person's parent, responsible for loving, nurturing them, and even growing them? What if you were the one responsible for growing them? Think about that. Like a teacher, you know? Does my teacher, my guitar teacher, come in and say, oh, you never do the homework. Oh, you never do the lesson I teach you. Oh, I can't teach you if you don't, you know? Or does the teacher say, you know, if you're not going to practice, you're just not going to, you can keep paying me money, but you're not going to get anywhere. See the difference? It's big difference. The parental heart can still speak truthfully about a problem, but getting caught up in it is different. And so I wanted to highlight this because this was a big help in my life. Whenever I catch myself, and it still happens, you never, she never, they always, and you start feeling like this helpless victim drowning in everybody else's faults. That's a pretty bleak picture, right? But we do get into that mode. We have that fallen habit passed on to us from the beginning. And we've got to remember that the only road out is to take the parental love, the unconditional love road. But I was thinking, you know, that sounds easy to do, but that ain't easy to do at all. Because what happens when you start stepping into becoming a person of truer love? Okay, got it. I'm going to be an unconditional loving person. If I love them and they don't love me back, I'm going to keep trying, be more Christ-like, be more God-centered, whatever you want to say. What's going to happen? I'll tell you one thing that happens. What's going to happen? It's going to be a feeling of loneliness and sadness sometimes. Nobody wants to love with this perfect, awesome love and then not get it back and not see it reciprocated. We're going to feel gypped off. We're going to feel shortchanged. We're going to feel emptied out and it's not returned. It's going to be possibly a lot of tears going that mode of thinking, don't you think? And so that pain would probably be so great that we end up, you know, becoming bitter or accusatory. And the key fork in the road here that we need to change is that we need to come into that situation and then reconnect and fill ourselves up with the joy of knowing God. God is the only one that does return the love perfectly, unconditional love. It's a spiritual relationship. I get it. He's invisible. Ain't so easy sometimes. But the only person that's going to bolster you up as you decide to love more, even if it doesn't come back, the only person there to rejuvenate you and fill it back up is the Heavenly Father, the one who is perfectly loving you all the time. See how this happens? God is unconditionally loving, and He's created like a circuitry of unconditional love. You can jump onto that circuitry. We can bring more love into the world, but each one of us needs a connection to the source of unconditional love to be able to do it. If we're not connected to that source, eventually we're going to burn out. Guaranteed. Eventually you will give, and it won't come back the way you thought. And you will burn out, you will be negative, you will be tired, you will be angry, you will be depressed. Well, great message going on here today, right? Don't pause right here. You will be all those things if you don't embrace a life of attempting to connect to a higher love, a higher power. That is the key. So bottom line to the message took a little minute to get there. It's kind of a story unfolding. But the bottom line of how do we become people that can operate at a higher level of true love? We have to absolutely be plugged in to God's grace and God's love. We need to feel God's grace and love in our body, in our soul, in our minds every day. That is the key. If you're not feeling that viscerally and believing that God is actually already right here, that there is no condition of waiting for more people to fix more things for me to feel God's love. God's love is right there, right now, and you can tap into it. It's infinite. It's immediate. We need to understand that, believe in it, pray on it, and start feeling that. Having that communication, that dialogue with God right now. We need to. And that is the only way that we can jump onto this operating system of true love, of more infinite forgiveness to each other. There is no other way. That's why Jesus gave us that example of being able to be a perfected man of love, forgiving 70 times 7, forgiving for they know not what they do, even the ones who betrayed and murdered him. And let's remember, he wasn't happy-go-lucky about these things. Jesus was weeping toward the end of his life over the city of Jerusalem, weeping in sorrow. He earnestly tried to garner the faith in the people, and they chose not to have the faith, just like Adam chose not to have faith in God. Jesus was feeling all the betrayal and the pain of this life, yet remained a man of perfect, true love. How did he do that? He was connected with Heavenly Father. He said it. Him and the Father are one. We are one. We are absolutely united. That is how he became that man of perfect forgiveness and perfect love. We can do the same, but we've got to go a little bit inward. The invisible God, but he's right there in the heart, and he's absolutely available to you right now. We have no reason to wait. In fact, we have every reason to hurry up. Look at the condition of the world. We've got to step up and level up in humanity. Become the example of true love and unconditional love in our lives. Yes, it ain't so fun and it's kind of painful if you're sitting around examining and waiting for others to reciprocate perfectly. They won't. You're going to have to step in and lead the way a little bit. That's the truth. Got to lead the way a little bit. Got to be more loving than the people around you most of the time, probably. And then it'll rub off and people will, over time, change and follow the example. Look at the lag between us and Jesus, right? We're lagging way behind. He's given us the example a long time ago. So, brothers and sisters, that's an important message. I just don't want to leave this message high in the sky. Okay, what the world needs now is love. Goodbye. It is nice to think about. I'm not belittling the last message. I was really excited to talk about it. I think it's profound. But let's get more real. Let's get real with how we feel God's love every day. That's the only way we can sit inside the tension. It's actually an existence of tension if you think about it. The tension between trying to live the ideal while dealing with reality, the real of all our faults, my faults, his faults, her faults. There's a tension. I'm striving to become an ideal while living in the real. And there's a tension. And the only thing that comes in to heal and help us handle the pressure of that tension is God's unconditional love. No other way about it. So I hope that this message can be inspiring and just give us something to think about. Am I in that you owe me space? Am I in that conditional love space? We do it all the time. We do it with our parents. If my parents don't support me on this and such and this an idea, then, resentment towards them. We do it with our kids. If they don't become a lawyer or a doctor and get perfect grades, we're going to withdraw how much we praise them, and so on and so forth. Okay, this happens all the time. Parents and children, children and parents, husband and wife. This is happening all the time. We need to remove the places where we're becoming conditional love people. So we've got to move into the unconditional love space. So we'll leave it right there. Thank you, brothers and sisters. I hope that this could be an inspiring message, and we will see you next time on The Living Room. God bless.